Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Sweden, and this is a brewery who I've not reviewed anything from in about 2 years actually, so this review is long overdue, and this was a beer that just kind of caught my eye because of the name when I had a look at it. So for this one we're going to go to Sigtuna Brygghus, who are from Arlandastad, just to the north of Stockholm, and this is a beer that should be really interesting actually. It's called Black Soil IPA and it comes in at 7.5%. Now I was over in Sigtuna recently with my dad. We went for a visit to Stockholm and we were staying near Arlanda so we could go between Uppsala and Stockholm, and we went to Sigtuna, lovely little town, but I learned that that is actually the oldest town in Sweden. It was founded back in 980, which was back in the Viking era of course, but it's famous for its black soil, which is where this beer takes its name from. So a little bit of a cool backstory to this one, but yeah, I'm glad I'm finally getting around to reviewing this one. I have heard about this beer, but I never actually saw it in the bottle in Sigtuna Brygghus until I actually went to Sigtuna. So this bottle itself did actually come from Sigtuna, the oldest town in Sweden, which I think is pretty cool. So I hope you guys watching over in Sweden actually enjoy this review. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Sigtuna Brygghus before. No doubt I will add some more in the fairly near future, definitely less than 2 years of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there of course for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Sigtuna Brygghus then before we kick off with the beer tasting. So this brewery was founded back in 2005 by Peter Force, and he was joined in the early days by David Meadows and Håkan Lundgren, and the brewery, like I mentioned, is based in Arlandastad, which is actually very close to the airport. It's about halfway between Uppsala, to the north, Sweden's oldest university's town of course, and then Stockholm, the capital city, to the south. So they brewed their first batch of beer back in 2006, and in the early days they were only producing around 600 gallons of beer per week, but initially they wanted to brew mainly historical recipes, but of course more recently they've been doing the more modern styles of beer. But for the first few years they were basically happy kind of brewing as a hobby, but their beers proved to be very popular in the local area, so they upscaled and hired more staff in 2009. But in 2013 they surpassed the 1 million litres of beer brewed mark, and they now have 12 employees and a 3,000 litre per brew capacity, which means they can brew well over 1 million litres of beer per year. And the brewing team is 4 men strong, and they are expanding further to at the moment to kind of further the exports of their beer. They have started exporting their beer of course, and I've heard some people over in America are getting some of these beers. I'm not sure how far east they've made it yet. Maybe some people in Australia that watch the channel can let me know if they've seen these. But the brewery is actually also home to St. Erik's Brewery, which is run by Jessica Heydrich, and they've been a kind of guest brewery there since about 2010, and Mohawk Brewing also brew some of their beers in the Sigtuna brewery as well. And I think Jessica Heydrich's brewery, the St. Erik's Brewery, they're related to Galatea, who are one of the biggest Swedish food companies, and I think Galatea have been helping Sigtuna Brygghus a little bit with their kind of distribution and things like that, so I think that has helped these guys get a lot of connections for sending their beers further abroad. But from what I remember, these guys are actually an organic brewery. They brew most of their beers organically, or there have been quite a few of their beers have been organic, and they're also powered mainly by wind power and solar energy as well, so they are a very green company, and of course that is a big thing in the Scandinavian country these days. That's one of the things I really love about living in Sweden generally, is that they're very, very concerned about the environment. It's a very kind of refreshing thing. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Sigtuna Brygghus just now. Really interesting brewery, and if you are watching in Sweden you can get these beers in pretty much all of the Systembolaget. These guys are one of the breweries that have national distribution throughout the country. So yeah, interesting brewery, and one that's definitely worth checking out. So let's see how we get on with this beer. So like I mentioned to you, this one is a 7.5% black IPA, and I think it was introduced back in September of 2016. As I said, the first time when I was in the Sigtuna Systembolaget, that was the first time that I'd actually seen this beer in the shop. I had heard of it before, but it's named after the black soil of Sigtuna town. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. But yeah, there you can see Nicely presented, this beer. I like the bottle caps as well. I don't think the last Sigtuna beer that I had this bottle cap on it, so I'll be keeping that one. And it says on the front here, large parts of Sigtuna rest on fragments of its history. Its black soil, a storehouse of culture and history since the Middle Ages, created by house fires and forgotten items that have mouldered away. This was the inspiration for our black IPA, which neatly creates a storehouse of hop aromas and gently roasted nuances in refined black robes. So yeah, Swedish craft beer excellence, this one. It has the founded 2005. So yeah, nicely presented, this one. So without further ado then, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I've been wanting to try this beer for quite a wee while. So yeah, nice smoky opening there, and we'll get it out. And you can smell some of that nice roasty black malt as you open up this beer, and some of the kind of floral and fruity things coming out of the hops as well. The black IPA for me is one of these really interesting styles because, to be honest, it's one that really sort of shouldn't work, but it somehow does. I've seen a lot of people doing like Cascadian dark ales and stuff like that recently. I'm not sure how closely related they are to the black IPAs. I think they're a little bit more bready and not quite as roasty, so that's another kind of interesting beer style. But when it comes to the black IPA, I've always felt they're at their best when they're imperials, you know, when they're up about 8-9%, because then you need a little bit of caramel to kind of bring out a bit of a kind of thicker feel to the malt base. If it's just straight up black malt, for me, I'm not such a great fan of that. But Sigtuna, I think they will probably, from what I remember of their other beers, they will have quite a sort of bready malt base, so I'm looking forward to this one. So as you can see, there was about 2 fingers of a frothy kind of light fawn beige tan head on this one. I don't think it's quite as dark as tan, to be honest, more of a kind of beige sort of fawn colour. 1 or 2 big bubbles were sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. You can smell some of these nice fruity notes just coming off the beer as we move it around. But if I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see it's not really transparent. To be honest, if I hold it up to the light, I think that's more due to the colour than any sort of haze or anything like that. I do think it is just simply the fact that this is quite a dark beer. It does have a little bit of a ruby edge to it as well, but it looks pretty much as you would expect a black IPA to. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on. Oh yeah, you can definitely smell there's a nice roasty black malt backbone to this. And it does smell quite bready. There's a little bit of brown sugar in there. Not too much. You can smell it's quite a toasted brown sugar as well, I would say. But yeah, it definitely has just a little bit of brown sugar. There's definitely a bit of this kind of big bready aroma in there as well. And you can smell the fruits. There is a little bit of a, it's not quite piney, it's more of a kind of spicy floral note, and it almost smells a wee bit earthy, but again, that might actually be the malt. There's definitely a little bit of a kind of grapefruity note to this beer, maybe even pushing red fruits a little bit, but it does have a kind of citrusy kind of aroma as well. It's almost a little bit just orangey or something, but definitely, this beer reminds me of some of these Cascadian dark ales. That was what made me actually talk about the style. When I opened up, you could smell some of these nice kind of grapefruity notes coming out of this beer. But yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma before you get stuck into it, but let's have a taste of this beer now. So this is the Black Soil IPA from Sigtuna Brygghus in just outside, in Arlandastad. So I was going to say Sigtuna, it's in Arlandastad, just to the north of Stockholm and just to the south of Uppsala. Let's get stuck into this beer then. Slange a skull to the oldest town in Sweden and to the Vikings. Cheers. Yeah, that is a nice beer. I have to say, you know, I will say straight up, thumbs up to Sigtuna for this one. They've actually balanced that really nicely. This one at 7.5%, it doesn't quite fit into the Imperial or double black IPA kind of category. And as I said, I always have reservations about this style because I feel a little bit like to get the best out of a black IPA, it does need a little bit of caramel to mix with the kind of roasty, toasty bitterness. So it's got a little bit of that roasty quality, but it also has the sweetness that you expect from a sort of West Coast IPA. But this one, they've balanced it out in a different way. You've got a nice roasty black malt backbone to it, but it's got that kind of bready character. And I think I've always found when you've got these kind of more organic beers, the malt base just, it feels a little bit different. It's just a little bit thicker, a little bit more bready. And they've balanced it out in that way. There's a little bit of a biscuity sweetness to it, but not quite the more kind of oily caramel, if that makes sense. But it suits it very well. So in the middle of your palate, you'll feel the malt base. It just has, you can feel almost that kind of smooth pale malt there. It's just a little bit thicker and smoother than that, and you can feel there's almost like a kind of U going around your tongue, where there's a little bit of that roasted black malt character, and right in the middle of your palate you can feel there's almost this little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuit there. I'm not sure how good a descriptor that is for the Swedish viewers. I actually can't remember if you can get like McVitie's digestives in Sweden. I've never actually bought them over there, but that's what it really reminds me of, these McVitie's kind of biscuits. It really reminds me of that. And I would say actually, as your mouth adjusts to the beer a little bit more, you do get a little bit of a more kind of sweet, brown, sugary note. It's not quite as oily as caramel, I would say. It's definitely a little bit more of a biscuity thing. Although that said, it does have a little bit, it's almost like a kind of, it's not quite honey, I'm not quite sure exactly what that is, but there is a little bit of that kind of lighter almost, it's almost like this wafery kind of honeycomb. It's almost like a honeycomb actually, that's probably a good way to describe it. It does have a little bit of a honeycomb flavour to it, and you can feel that right on the middle of your tongue. And I'm finding that as I'm drinking more and more of this, the roasty black malts just start to come out that little bit more. So initially the beer is quite balanced, but then it does start to pull out into the kind of roasty, toasty bit, and you'll feel in the back corners of your palate there is a little bit of an earthy bitterness in there. And I'm wondering, with the way that earthy character's coming out, I do wonder if there's a little bit of an English hop in there. There could be something like Magnum or something like that in this beer as well, because you can get a little bit of earthiness from the likes of Magnum, and there is one of the other hops that I don't know if it's Chinook. Chinook's got that nice piney resin, and there is a bit of that kind of dankness to the beer. I wonder if one of those hops is in this beer. I'm just guessing. It's always fun to guess like that, but the main thing is it's a nice beer this, and do give it a try for yourself. Yeah, there's a nice kind of florally, quite spicy floral character, a little bit of a pine resin note, and then round the front curve of the tongue it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy, and then behind the front curve of the palate, of course, you get a little bit of that slightly grapefruity but also kind of red fruity note to this beer. I'm wondering if there's Cascade in this beer. This beer I think does have elements of some of these Cascadian dark ales in terms of the flavour and in terms of the aroma. So I'd be interested to know what hops they've actually used in this one. I always like guessing when you're doing reviews like this and you don't know, but I do suspect there's a little bit of Cascade or something like that, and I do wonder if there's a bit of Chinook or Magnum in this one too. But it's nicely balanced, this, I have to say that about it. The grapefruit's there. I want to say there's a little bit of an almost orangey character coming out of it as well. You can feel that in that little oily bubble behind the front curve of your tongue. The grapefruit is kind of is given the backbone of this beer, then it becomes a little bit more orangey, and then it just progresses, and it's the things that are sitting in the aftertaste of this one. It's the roasty black malt and some of that earthy character and a little bit of the piney resins too. You can feel a little bit of the fruity note in this beer as well. But overall, this is a beer for me that's really about the balance of the flavours, and they've got that really well in this one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this beer again actually. I think they've done a really nice job of that. I'd maybe even go as far as saying that's probably my favourite beer that I've tried from Sigtuna so far. The other beers have been pretty good, I would say, but I think this one for me is probably the best one that I've tried. And my dad actually, as I say, had one of these beers in Sigtuna. He bought a bottle for himself, but I wanted to save it for the review, and I'm glad that I did, because I always think it's good to show you guys the first reactions. But I would say that's my favourite beer probably that I've had from Sigtuna so far, so well done to the guys for that. In terms of the mouthfeel then, mid-bodied for me on this one. Carbonation, it is a little bit crisp, which suits the beer. Overall, it's got a bit. It's a little bit oily, but it does have a bit of wetness to the mouthfeel as well. There's a little bit of I would say a nice hoppy bitterness to the beer. Good little bit of bitterness from the malt base as well, but like I said, there's a wee bit of an almost honeycomb sweetness too, and there's some nice juicy fruity notes to the beer as well, which is really, really nice. So have a go with this one for yourself, see what you think. But for me, it's a really nice black IPA. The thing that makes it a little bit different for me is that, as I always say, I prefer the Imperial black IPAs because you get a bit of sweetness from the caramel as well, but they've balanced this one out a little bit more with bread, which is kind of really nice, so well done to them for that. It's something that's made me think a little bit more about this style, but I would say if you like Cascadian dark ales, I think this is one that you are definitely going to enjoy. So yeah, I think that's a good way to sign off on this one. So the Black Soil IPA from Sigtuna Brygghus, obviously originally from Sigtuna, which is Sweden's oldest town. So a lovely beer. They've got they have got some other ones. As I say, these guys are a green brewery. They like to produce different organic beers as well, and they're definitely worth checking out. So, so yeah, I think let's sign off on that one just now. You have to try this beer for yourself and see what you think. It's one that's definitely all about the balance. If you like Cascadian dark ales, you're going to enjoy this one. If you like your black IPAs to lean a little bit more towards the roasty bitter side of things rather than being a little bit sweeter, you will enjoy this as well. But I've enjoyed reviewing this one, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on it. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Sigtuna Brygghus as well, and hopefully I can return to these guys in the fairly near future. They've done a great job with this one, and I do recommend that you have a go at it. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. And make sure you go and visit Sigtuna as well. It's Sweden's oldest town, and it is just really pretty. So yeah, till the next time, it's Slans just now, and I will catch you guys later. Skål!